Committee meeting. It's May 9th, and I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 6, or I'm sorry, not adjourn. I'm going to call to order the meeting at 6:01, joined by Bernie Flynn and Sheila Vaccaro. Item number 2, comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Please, you would state your name and address. Thank you.
Ann Carroll, 506 South Franklin Street. I have two things. First is a question. We got an alerts today from the thing you get alerts for. And it mentioned that there was going to be furniture pickup in the student areas for student clean out, and it would go to the home goods recycling kind of, and they were going to pick up the good furniture and pick whatever they did not take would then be picked up. This is going to happen on Saturday, and anything not taken will be picked up on Sunday, I believe. I'm wondering who's picking that up. Is it them or is it us? Does anyone know anything about this? Then council should be aware. I don't know whether any of you got this alert.
So through Tesco Views, or who did the alert come?
One moment. If you will allow me. And by the way, the next item is those pictures. Bill has those. If I go to my inbox, I should be able to find it because I did keep it. No reply. Everbridge is how it came across. Okay. Yeah, sure. I've got it. I'm right here. I've got it too. It's this week, May 12 and 13. Westchester University will be hosting a furniture move-out drive among off-campus student renters in partnership with the Community Warehouse Project. Good idea. Please note that student renters will be putting gently used furniture on their front lawns or the backs of their properties when the property backs up to an alley beginning on Friday. Sorry, I had the date wrong. Friday, May 12th. All furniture not accepted by the Community Warehouse Project will be collected for disposal by the end of the day on Saturday, May 13th. So it might be a good idea if our powers that be check into that indeed the warehouse project is going to pick up or the university or somebody's going to pick it up, because otherwise it'll be sitting there for Mother's Day. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm shocked that no one even knows about them.
Sounds like a university-sponsored event.
Yeah, well, this is coming through Chester County, and I thought they were coordinated also with you guys. So, yeah. All right. My second thing is just to raise awareness of the rain. I'm going to call them pits for now because they're not gardens yet in any stretch of the imagination. But this is what we saw on May the 1st, which was a day and a half after our heaviest rainstorm, where we did have indeed flooding. There was our first flooding event of the year along Neal Street. So these pictures show the standing water that we are seeing. And I understand from some emails that things are being remediated, but I wanted you all to see what we are seeing. And this is what backs up to people's houses. There are also some rocks that have strayed down toward the stream. They look very lonely in that one area. I'm not sure whether that was intentional or not. And the last photo, that has dried up as of today, May 5th. But the last photo in the group, that one, that's what is still there now. And we have not had any kind of heavy rainfall that would account for that. So my concern is that we make sure that the soils are ready to receive the plantings that are going to be done if it's approved by the Finance Committee, that I would hope that you would all support that we get this resolved. But first, that the soils we make sure that everything is right before we stuff things in here. And also, I'm concerned about ongoing maintenance, and that includes watering of these plants that are planted. If we just stick them in and hope for rainfall, last summer we didn't get a lot. So they will just die, and we will have spent $17,000 for naught. So the ongoing maintenance, the watering, and that goes for the trees that we plant as well. We're in tree planting season. If they're not planted on a private property, if they're planted in our parks, et cetera, and some were planted here in the past, they were never watered other than by storms, and they did not do well. So we're spending money, but we have to spend it for the lifetime of what we're planting. Thank you.
Any other public comments or suggestions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 3A. Discuss monthly reports, starting with Public Works.
Good evening, Don Edwards, Public Works Director. Some highlights from this past month include we advertised for bids for our 2023 paving project. We also worked with PennDOT's consultant who retimed the vast majority of the borough's traffic lights. The consultant first performed a traffic study, which was the basis for the retiming. Third, we began the spring tree planting. 4, we worked with the solicitor to prepare a sanitary sewer ordinance, which is on tonight's agenda. The primary purpose of the ordinance is to address the issue of PennDOT requiring the borough to be the applicant for plumbers when they work on state roads for our protection. And number 5, we prepared for and implemented the Gay Street closure for the downtown business district. And since it's our second year, things went well. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I have one question about the Gay Street closure. Do we have any future plans for better managing the trash collection and pickup along Gay Street during the closure?
Right. Public Works fell short this past week, if that's what you're referring to. And we believe that it's a problem with our, a very manageable problem with our workforce, and we're dealing with it.
Thank you.
Good evening. I want to talk a little bit about the trees because there's some communication going back and forth today between me, you, and a bunch of people. We're going into the 3rd week of May, and the person or the company that's actually installing the trees, it seemed that it was a slow startup by them to get themselves geared up. We're supposed to put in 140 trees this spring.
I think it's just over 100. I
We're
don't.
supposed to do 200, and then
Right.
I thought that 140 and 60. I could be wrong. Yeah, but anyway, 100 trees. So it took them this long to put in 9 trees.
Right.
Do you feel confident that these guys or this company can, step it up to put them in the right way and get them done?
Yeah, I'm guardedly optimistic. I did talk to them, and I think that there was a hiccup that involved them and the arborist and the trees that were coming in. At least that's what Arca Wild is, the contractor, and that's what they explained to me. That's why they were delayed by 2 weeks. So they told me that they're going to keep at it until they're finished. And let me see, they did 9 in one day, so it might be 12 work days. So yeah, I feel pretty good about that.
Okay, and then the tree pruning company
Yes.
that basically lives in a different country.
Mhm.
Have we actually seen them? Have they come down to do any work?
Yes.
Because
Mhm.
there seems to be a lot of, at least 4 dead trees at Everhart Park that need to come down.
Yeah.
And, a bunch of the pruning. I mean, if you remember, a resident from the first ward came with a scratch on his face saying that, had to get under a tree, that we should be doing the pruning.
Right.
Is that company committed to step up and do what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, I'm not going to say they respond instantaneously, but I haven't had a really long delay whenever we've asked for something. So they have done work, and I know they do have like 8 trees to take down at Hoops Park, and it sounds like more at Everhart Park. But so far, pretty good.
So they're on, you got the follow-up, you got them on the schedule to come in and start the tree removals
Yes.
soon?
Yes, but both the tree removals and the pruning, I mean, they have done some pruning. So yeah, I mean, they're doing what we're asking of them. And for whatever reason, it seems like the first 2 or 3 months have been kind of slow, but it's picked up recently. The number of requests for, tree work and condemnations and all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to wastewater report.
Good evening, Mike Finley, Superintendent of Taylor Run. This month, we rebuilt our sludge recirculating pump with a reconditioned shaft, new seals and bearings. We repaired the bucket elevator system. Chain came off the sprocket. This consisted of draining the tanks and removing grit with our vacuum trailer and going through confined space entry procedures before entering the tank. And we had our forklift training where we were recertified and licensed. Goose Creek took the contact mixer offline for inspection. New bearings and seals were installed. The housing was painted and changed oil before placing back online. They had their semi-annual oil changes and lubrications were performed on the clarifiers, mixers, compressors, and blowers. And they also reinstalled a 15 horsepower pump with a new cap cord in the pump station. And while installing that, they noticed another pump had the cap cord was bad, and they replaced that one also.
Thank you. Any
Any
questions?
questions?
Unfortunately, you're off the hook there, Mr. Finley, because I know you don't know the answers to the questions that I
Okay.
wrote down. So I have to go to the next Sean, Mr. Metric. The 2 Toll Brother complexes that we have, Toll Brothers at Westchester Crossing. I believe we've gotten all of our money as far as the hookups down there, and they're on board with us paying their monthly fees. But the up at Darlington Ridge, they just closed out the development up there. And I'm not so sure that we're on the same page with East Bradford to get our money, which is a substantial amount of money because they've been building since 2017. Does East Bradford understand that they owe us money?
Yeah, we're working to resolve that. So the issue is that at some point, the land development changed from a haul and dump methodology of treating the sewage to flowing into the conveyance system owned by East Bradford Township. And at that point, the customers in Darlington Ridge were being billed by East Bradford Township and have been, and our finance director's working with East Bradford Township to account for all of that billing. And then as each unit has come online, the development is recently completed. You're correct. I think the last certificate of occupancy was issued a few months ago. I think it's a 107 unit development. It's a little bit complicated, obviously. When this development was being proposed and the agreements were being made for it, East Bradford Township was in the process of or concluding the sale of its conveyance systems to Aqua. And this particular portion of the conveyance system wasn't part of that transaction, which set up this unusual in the sense it's not the same as the rest of East Bradford Township's public sewer connections, set up this unusual billing pattern. And where we are right now is that East Bradford Township does owe the borough money. And East Bradford Township is trying to figure out through Aqua whether or not they should be transferring money to Aqua like they do with the rest of the township that's on our public sewer systems, or whether they should be cutting a check directly to the borough. Either way, I think we have to do it sooner, because you're correct, it's been too long. And we're working with East Bradford to account for all of those dollars. And I think it's appropriate that we come and speak to finance maybe next month with some results of what we've learned. And I know that East Bradford Township Manager and myself are committed to getting the knot untied and everything correct with the way the billing is supposed to be happening.
Yeah, we did have a rate increase. Mr. Allen was here, he'd be able to tell me. I think it was a year. The COVID years is driving me out of my mind because I don't know when we did it. But we did have a rate increase. Hopefully that's been conveyed over to East Bradford, that, there was a rate increase maybe a year or two ago. The rate they started with, the new people coming online actually would pay a higher rate to start, and then the other people catch up. Because it's 107 houses, times 3 years, 4 years. It's all staggered because of the way the houses come online. But it's a substantial amount of money that I think sitting there. And, obviously it would make good sense that our wastewater treatment plant would get the money if you could sway it that way.
We'll bring that information to the finance team each year. See about ways to-
Thank you. Do you guys know where the Darlington Bridge is? They on top of the hill. Yeah, it took them longer to get the road in than it did to build the houses. So, but we haven't gotten any money at all for the all the waste that's going down to Goose Creek since the first house has come on board.
Well, that when the first house was occupied and up to a certain point, and I'm sorry, I don't know whether it was the 40th house, the 50th house, the 60th house, or the 70th house was occupied. It switched from what they were doing was basically impounding the sewage there, if you can imagine, in the pipes. And a truck was coming every day, emptying it and bringing it over to Goose Creek and dumping it. And we were getting revenue for that.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't know that.
It just happened when at some point, and Mr. Mitchell did bring it to my attention, at some point, the flow of sewage became either gravity, there might be a pump system over there too, but switched over to the full-time way that sewage is going to be transferred from that development to our transfer plant. All of that sewage in that part of East Bradford Township has to be pumped against gravity back into the borough and then pumped again by our pump systems back up to, I believe, somewhere a little bit east of High Street, where then it gravity flows to the plant.
Yeah,
So we spend a lot of electricity moving that sewage.
the
uphill.
pump station goes to College Park over there right at the university. And then it gets pumped again and pumped again, but it never reaches Taylor Run. I don't know why, but it never does. It just goes to Goose Creek.
Yep.
Well, I'm more interested in the money. Yeah, I mean, if you follow the money trail, that's where the truth could come in. But thank you. I'm
Yep,
glad we're
thank
on
you.
top of it.
Any other questions? All right,
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Moving on to Parks and Recreation.
Good evening. Keith Karowski, Director of Parks and Recreation Department. As you can read from the report, things are starting to uptake in the parks. Weather's getting nice. Rentals are up. Activities, programming is on the move. Anything in the report you'd like to discuss directly, I'm happy to do so. I'm here to talk about one thing really in particular is finally the proposals have come in for the Recreation and Parks Master Plan update. We received 9 proposals, anywhere from 62.7 to 155.5. Sean and myself have reviewed those proposals, have whittled it down to 6 companies that will be further reviewing this week. We had 2 virtual meetings today. We have 2 tomorrow and 2 on Thursday. The game plan is for us to have those reviews. He and I to sit down and discuss that further on Friday, and then on Monday, present to you our recommendations on who we'd like to work with. Let me just say this right off the top. They're all really good. They're all really qualified. Some are larger firms, some are smaller firms. They all bring something unique to, I think, what the borough is looking for. And like I've said over the course of the last year plus of the ask of looking to do this and getting monies budgeted, it's really needed. I mean, this process is going to help pretty much be our guiding light for the next decade. And we should really be thinking about doing this every 10 years. Every 10 years, technology changes, standards change, different regulations within the playground usages themselves. And the one thing that Sean and I have discussed, especially today with our the 2 firms we spoke with, it's not just about the capital planning within this. We want our parks to be up to date. We want them to meet certain standards. And the best way I can say this, what are we going to do with our new toy? How are we going to take care of our new toy? How are we going to staff this? What kind of programming? And the consulting firms we're going to be looking to work with, or I should say the consulting firm, is going to have a good mix of that coming back. There's going to be a ton of public input. The steering committee, as we had originally planned, may slightly change or tweak with the folks that we'd like to see on it, different key personnel interviews. But it's going to be a lengthy process. It's probably going to be at least 10 to 12 months in duration. We're looking at anything longer than a year kind of loses steam. So hopefully within the next year, this will be presented back to Borough Council with our final recommendations and findings. And then it'll be up to council to say, okay, here we are with these new recommendations, short-term, long-term. Start looking to the budgeting process from there on how we want to attack these goals that we've set forth. I'm excited about it. I'm apprehensive. I'm nervous. It is great. Again, thank you to council. The young lady, Isabella Ryan, who started with us about 6 weeks ago, is fantastic. She's taken some things off of my plate that I could focus on these types of activities and this plan and the upper level things. But with all those good things said, looking ahead also, May 19th, moving the park, Marshall Square Park. May 25th, Fugit Park, concert in the park out back. June 4th, 40th anniversary of the Turk's Head Music Festival. We are blowing it up. The park is full. I can't fit much more in the park except for the people that are coming to attend. Great bands, terrific food, some side action entertainment, kids things. I've been doing that event now for 19 years and I love it. I love planning it. I love organizing it. Don't come looking for me the morning of when things are going a bit haywire, but at 12 o'clock when the event's off and running, it is what it is. I'm sure it'll be great. If Mother Nature gives us a day like today, we might draw record crowds, but I'm really, really looking forward to it. Any questions you have for me about my report, the folks we're looking to do, the events, their activities are up and coming, happy to answer any.
I just have one question. I suppose we'll probably hear about this when you give us your recommendations for the consultants, but they seem to be sort of all over the board in terms of what the breakdown was.
As far as the pricing or how they broke down the
Yes,
final price?
Right. So that wasn't specified in the RFP. They all sort of chose how they were going to break this.
No, I believe it was specified. It's a one lump sum payment is what we're looking for. It was up to the individual firms to come back with this. How are we going to spend, from them to us, how are we going to spend your money? And what do you want to see? And I think our RFP, and we've actually heard that a couple of times today, is it was laid out. It wasn't your cookie cutter DCNR request for an RFP for a master plan and parks upgrade. I literally took bits and pieces from numerous RFPs that I had seen and kind of put them together what I think made most sense for the borough, obviously with Sean's approval and his recommendations as well. And again, throughout this process, there's going to be things we probably are going to want to hear and some things maybe we don't want to hear, some things maybe where we're lacking that need to be addressed in a more timely fashion, but that's part of the entire process. I've said it before, sometimes parks get left a little bit behind. We'll get to that tomorrow. We'll get to that next year. They're going to be here, but I just think it's time to put them a little more to the forefront. And the pandemic, as Bernie was saying earlier, I get lost in the pandemic years because we didn't have these meetings like this. But I'll tell you what, our parks were used more than they had been in my tenure here. People were asking me to use the parks left and right, and we just didn't have the facilities to accommodate. Now, hopefully, we never go through a situation like that again. But it's time to start addressing those as well.
Thank you. Glad to see us moving forward.
Cool. Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the engineer reports.
Good evening. Bear with me. I'm getting over a head cold. I'm running on Sudafed and adrenaline right now. Want to start with that's the wrong attachment. That's a wrong attachment. Couple things. This is grant season. The spring is grant season, so very busy with that. We submitted late April a grant for phase 1 of Gay Street open air marketplace infrastructure. That was to a county program. There's 2 more grant applications due at the end of the month. One, Parks and Rec, one, Stormwater. Both of those projects we've submitted to other grant programs earlier. Our goal is submit 2, hopefully get at least 1. If we get 2, we'll have the elusive zero match project. So we've done $3.3 million in grant applications over the last month. It's sort of heady days right now with all the Infrastructure Act and ARPA dollars out there. So that's not really a sustainable rate, but rest assured the grant applications are going in. Later tonight, we'll review a bid tab for the High and Minor intersection improvement project. Very excited about that. Low bid came in right at the budget, right at the cost estimate created by TPD, right at the budget that Borough Council approved last month during the capital project reconciliation process. So very cautiously optimistic there. We're just crossing T's, dotting the I's on contractor qualifications, but we'll talk about that a little later. Tomorrow at Public Safety, Remington and Vernick will review results of more analysis of traffic concerns on Price Street. And lastly, second to last thing I'll hit on is Downingtown Pike, Bradford Plaza. That project got underway again after a delay from Aqua, who was working in the same area. This morning, concrete for new pedestal-mounted pedestrian crossing buttons was poured. Mr. Flynn, last month, you raised concerns about the ability of the motorized scooters, shopping scooters from Giant to navigate the ramp. We looked into this with Pannoni's assistance. The ADA requirement for combined landing and ramp at an intersection like that is a 4x4 pad. That's 16 square feet. Ours is 5x5. That's 25 square feet or 56% more. All the ramp angles are 2% or less. We actually found one today that was 2.05%, and PennDOT will ding us for that. So we actually have to go in and sort of shave down the piece of concrete that's jutting out and making that angle.
The issue wasn't whether the ADA ramp pad was the right way. It's the radius that you can't turn. And if you go directly across the street with a photograph, now you're going to show me. Okay,
Yeah.
Go the other way. He'll fall right off the curb there because of the thing. Coming the other way, it's very difficult for somebody to turn going across. So
From the other side of the
yeah,
street?
coming across, yeah.
Okay.
Only because I didn't go that way because I've realized anybody can go that way.
So-
But they're coming the other direction because of the pad,
Mhm.
right? And then the slope of the concrete, maybe that's where you're going to shave it so they could actually make the turn to come up the hill.
Yeah.
Because the front tire, it just doesn't, the radius there just isn't wide enough. So if you go the other direction, was that Billy on that thing?
What's that?
Was that Bill on the?
That was me.
Was that you?
Yep.
Go the other, well, you had to take it back.
Yeah, I did.
So.
Yeah.
You had to see how difficult it was to make the turn.
I had
Because of the.
No. I had no issues making the turn in either direction. The pad on the other side is the same size, 5x5. It's
Yeah.
25 square feet. The wheelbase of the scooters is 36 inches and it's a 0 turn radius. So there's more than enough room. You can do donuts on the ADA ramp on those motorized scooters. So
Okay.
just wanted to let you know that I told you I'd look at it. You said you'd buy me Starbucks. I'm not sure that's permitted by borough code.
It's permitted, 'cause
Is
we
it?
don't have expense accounts.
Okay.
Mr. Metric doesn't give us any refunds on our money, so it comes directly out of Mrs. Flynn's pocket.
Okay. Well, so long as there's no rules against elected officials buying staff coffee, then
I can buy you a donut.
tomorrow will be good.
I'm available. Golf is at 1.
Yeah.
So I'm available.
I wanted to hit on the rain gardens. I was on vacation last week. I got about 30 emails about the rain gardens. So I just want to sort of address this once and for all. The pictures that we looked at earlier are showing exactly what rain gardens are supposed to do. And I don't disagree that a better name for them at this time might be rain pits. But I've repeatedly said that green infrastructure looks its worst year one, as opposed to gray infrastructure, which looks its best year one. So we need a little time to get that juiced up. But I want to went out there and looked at it. The issue is, if you recall, we finished the construction around December, January, and the plan at the time called for seeding there, and you can't seed anything in December. So what we did instead was put down a heavy duty like weed fabric and mesh, and that's still in place. And Bill, can you pull up that other video? So what happened is there's a bunch of debris collected in that fabric, which is preventing some of the rain gardens from draining. We had measurable rain a couple days last week, including Thursday. There's no golden rule for how long these things should take to drain, but anything more than 3 days, you're kind of getting into concern. Anytime you get into 8 days, or about a week, you start to get mosquito concerns. You can pause that. I don't want the wastewater guys to get too excited. So what we did today, went out there and poked a hole in that with a 1/2-inch piece of rebar. And as you can see, it creates a geyser. That is air that's trapped below that fabric coming up as water dumps into the soil below and starts draining as we intend it to. After the geyser turns down, you get a little whirlpool. So we did that we poked about 7 or 8 holes through that fabric, and the water fell about 1 inch in 10 minutes. So what we need to do here is get that fabric out. We're going to do that when we plant. There's a planting proposal. It's over 10,000, so it's on the finance agenda for this week. And it's my fault for not having that on the agendas last month, so we could have been planting and looking good by now. But if you go back to that, this is the last thing I'll show, the PDF. The last 3 pages is a snippet of the planning proposal from ArcaWild, who is our contracted third-party maintenance contractor for the year. Couple things we asked them for. Keep going, page 7. This is sort of the overall goals of the planting. Couple things were we wanted good sight lines into the park, so police are cruising by, they can see if anything not good is going on in the parking lot. And everything's native, of course, pollinator friendly. It's going to be good in super dry conditions, good in super wet conditions. That's just what you need if you're in a rain garden. And I asked them to do purple and yellow as sort of a nod to the university. Here's the plant palette, and there's a couple of renderings of what we hope it will look like in the near future. So,
Any questions?
make it 7:30. All right.
Enjoy your coffee. I do, the rain gardens.
Mhm.
I love the rain gardens. I think they are potentially very wonderful. What is the plan with the maintenance of these rain gardens moving forward? I live down Sharpless Street and that area where those rain gardens
Yeah.
were, and I know that there were some maintenance issues moving in. They are working beautifully, and they were not all attractive the first couple.
Yeah.
So they're very attractive at this point, but
Yeah, most of the gardens were installed in 2018. Again, like any garden, you need to plant continually. You're going to lose stuff over time. Frankly, when the pandemic hit, we looked for every way to stop spending, and one of the things that got cut was planting. So we took about 2 years off from planting at that critical like year 3 juncture, and it didn't do us a favor. We have a third-party maintenance vendor always will. It's Arcawild. They're our ecological restoration company and native plant nursery. In the past, it's always been Joe Schmo Landscaping Company. And these are sort of dynamic. It's not just a flower bed. So we're happy to have someone with more of a ecological focus doing the maintenance. In addition to that, we created a Adopt a Rain Garden program this year. We had 14 people sign up, which is exactly what we wanted. We don't want 10 volunteers in a garden that's, half the size of the dais there. So we had one volunteer per small garden, about 2 or 3 per larger garden, and they're helping out. They're obligated to do nothing. We have a really great group of people. We have professors, gardeners. We have 2 stormwater engineers that volunteered. What that allowed us to do was cut the scope of the contractor a little bit. And that actually cut our costs by, I think, 55% this year versus last year. And, as we plant more of these, we'll just expand that program and have more volunteers. But it's hard to rely on volunteers 100%. So we'll always have that professional aspect.
Wonderful. I've seen them working, so thank
Yeah,
you.
cool.
They do a wonderful job.
More question. We're getting into the summer season, obviously,
Mhm.
which means surfing. But other than that, how are we doing with the roof?
Roof.
Have we got all our contracts in? Has Panoni signed off on stuff? I mean, we haven't heard anything since
Yeah.
last month. How do we stack up with
I
that?
think that was bullet 1 on my report. So contracts are executed. We're waiting for the contractor to submit their permit. We ran into a little bit of a hiccup with one of their subcontractors for the mechanical work, which was not spelled out in the bid, the scope of work, because there's a small element of mechanical work that needs to be done in any roofing project like this. The expectation and the hope was that they were going to really just disconnect and reconnect those units. When we had our pre-con meeting with the mechanical contractor, they suggested a scope of work that's a little more in depth than that. Basically realigning where some certain wires run and conduit and something like that. No major changes, but it was past the point where Kevin Gore considered it an alteration, which would require a permit. The problem there was the subcontractor did not have their ICC certification for mechanical. Electrical did, the mechanical contractor didn't. So there's 3 options. They need to get ICC certified, which doesn't seem like it will be a challenge because they're a very good contractor. They can reduce the scope of work so that we're all comfortable that it doesn't need a mechanical permit. Or option 3, we go back to the primary, point out that our bid said they have to comply with all borough ordinances, which includes ICC certification for any mechanical permit, and tell them, sorry, you got to get a new mechanical contractor. That would be the worst case option because we'd have to go through the RCO requirements with the new sub, which means posting everything online for 10 days. And that would, add a couple weeks to the timeline. But right now, our expectation is that they start by the end of the month. Sorry, really long answer to an easy question.
There's a reason why, I thought they were going to start the first or second week in May.
Yeah.
Because I believe the roofing contractor said he had this ginormous job over in Jersey he had to get to. I wanted to make sure that we didn't get pushed to the back burner.
Yeah.
That's all there is to.
Yeah. The other thing that they've been very adamant about is the roofing timelines are heavily dependent on weather. And I don't think the last couple of weeks have been really helpful for them getting their projects done. So,
Yeah. So did you give them a drop dead start time? Or just gonna let the thing float till they
yeah,
done?
not yet, but if it goes a few more weeks, then we might have to. So we haven't exercised that option yet.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Darrell Cook, South Walnut Street. Will any parking spaces be returned to East Minor Street since the right-hand turn lane will be removed?
There's no impact to parking availability on East Minor Street from our project there.
Thank you. Moving on to action item 4A, approve the next gen service agreement.
You should have seen a proposal from NextGen, and I'd like to just briefly explain what they do for us. They are the incumbent contractor. They handle our heating and air conditioning services, and that's broken down into two parts. They provide a computer system, which is called a SCADA system, where we can monitor and control temperatures and equipment from a computer. So that's part of the services that they provide. And then the other part is they also provide maintenance and repair services when we have problems with our HVAC.
So a couple questions. So how does this compare to the 22 contract?
Okay. Looking at the costs, and we do have somebody from NextGen here, because I was thinking that there might be some questions I couldn't answer, but I will address that question. There are increases in costs, and I'll say significant. But if you'd like more of an explanation, I can ask him to come up here and address that.
Does significant mean from 10,000 to 28,000, or what's the?
Well, I looked at it in terms of, okay, so what you see on the screen right there, $28,000, that was $20,000 last year. And in fairness to the contractor, they kept it $20,000 for the previous 3 years. So it actually went from 20 to 28 over a 3-year period.
And has the scope changed at all?
No.
I mean, so for instance, the response time, et cetera, I assume you're all happy with that.
Yeah.
Staff training, I noticed there's no figure in that, probably just an oversight. X number of 2-hour training sessions per year. There's no figure there. Was
Yeah.
that something that's not included that
Well,
used to be? or-
I think what I would say is that we're all pretty familiar with a computer program now and how to operate the SCADA system. So we probably don't need that. Like we did the first time they gave us a proposal.
Thank you. Do you like to?
The,
Next-gen person?
the only question I have is that's heating and air conditioning, correct?
Yes.
We've had a problem for years at one of our rental properties with air conditioning, keeping the candy store at the right temperature. It would be hot out front, cold in the back, middle, whatever. And the contractor we had working on it could never get the damn thing to fix. Maybe you don't know about that, but are they part of that contract since they're responsible for our buildings? Maybe they could figure out how to fix
Right.
the air conditioning system, heating
Yes.
system at the candy store.
Yes, I know they've been over there. Now, if what you described, if that happened within the last 3 years, they may have been that company. If it was before that, then it might have been somebody else, but
No, it wasn't them.
it wasn't them.
No.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I know just recently there was some kind of leak in a cooling system. We were talking about this morning in staff meeting. So yeah, they are involved.
Yeah, it was another company that began with a B.
Oh.
So it was, but that wasn't them. The main thing is they're an excellent tenant. And when he makes that, that candy, it has to be the right temperature or, a lot of people get phone calls
Yes, sir.
and Sean's trying to fix the leak in the front.
Yes, sir.
It seems like we're sabotaging this one building over there, but, hopefully we can make sure that air conditioner works for the candy guy.
Yes, and if I find that there's like a history of repairs and, this problem keeps recurring, I'll be happy to take it to another level to, see if we need to replace equipment or, turn it into a capital project.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Item 4B, approve agreement with Willistown Conservation Trust for 2 lawn to meadow conversion at the borough wastewater treatment plants.
Yeah, I will handle this one if you don't mind. We were looking, or I was thinking about when the contract was going out for lawn maintenance services for the borough, we were thinking about, well, are there parts of the borough that we don't necessarily have to mow? Because when you mow somewhere, you need usually a $10,000 to $18,000 piece of equipment that lasts about 7 years that you need to take care of and spend about $500 to $800 a year on maintaining. You got to put fuel in it. You have to have an operator. And that piece of equipment has to stay busy to make its money. So we looked at this, we looked at areas, and we kept coming back to the wastewater treatment plants as large areas that are currently maintained as a lawn as possible locations for conversion to meadow. And so I reached out on my own to the Willistown Conservation Trust, which is a nonprofit organization in Chester County, a little bit to the east of here is their main area of focus of work, just to see if we could get some technical assistance to understand how we would go about implementing this, like what are the first steps. And lo and behold, they were in the process of looking for potential partners to do lawn to meadow conversions because they had just secured a grant from DCNR to do just that, to convert up to 50 acres of meadow on private and public lands to lawn on private and public lands to meadow. And they were particularly interested in a municipal partner. So it just happened to be right place, right time, right phone call to the right person. And they came out and looked at our sites and got very excited about what you're seeing up here, Goose Creek, the sort of eastern to south facing slope. That's about 1.3 acres of ground that could be converted to meadow. And also at Taylor Run, we identified 2 smaller areas, one near the entrance and one upslope of the, I'm sorry, Mike, I don't know the names of those pieces of infrastructure there on that loop road. But that is the control building there in the center of that circle. That area is a little bit different because it's not quite as sunny. So there needs to be a different kind of seed mix put there. So we talked to Willistown Conservation Trust, and they're enthusiastic about partnering with us. And that's what we have before us, is an agreement between that organization and the borough to provide what the organization will provide is the installation of the meadow at a cost, grant-funded cost of total of $8,200. The borough would contribute $630. That's about, if I'm doing my math real quick, about 7.5%. So they're funding it 92 cents on the dollar. The proposal would be to pay our match through our current maintenance, landscape maintenance, or we could even do a stormwater payment for this as well, since there's stormwater benefits to converting from lawn to meadow. What is important to note about this agreement, and it's something council needs to consider, is the promise that council has to make to maintain these areas in this meadow for 25 years. And also for the borough to invest in the next 5 years. In the first 5 years of any of these installations, it's really important that you get it right, that you go back and you reseed. And we're going to have to tailor our lawn maintenance services to include a single season or twice a season mow of this area with a different kind of equipment, like a bush hog. So there's going to be a little bit of finessing of this with our current system, but I think we have an opportunity here to demonstrate the viability of converting lawns to meadow. We can save a lot of time. We can save a lot of fuel by making this conversion. And I think I just think it's a wonderful opportunity to partner with this organization to do basically a no-cost project here.
It's not the way I saw it. I like everything he said, but my idea was, instead of having our maintenance contractor come in and cut the grass, and was to bring in sheep from Chester County and let them graze towards the middle of the season, and we would get both fertilizer and grass cut. Because if you ever, the reason why cattle farmers and sheep farmers don't like each other is because the sheep eat the grass too close to the ground and the cows can't. And I would love to know what it would cost to have sheep pens. They can't get out. All we gotta do is shut the gate. That, what they actually do is they fence in the sheep. So they only do like 100 square feet or 200 square feet at a time, and they just move the fencing. But we would get the benefit of fertilizer and a true organic system there instead of having our landscaping guy cut the grass. So I'd see the trade-off on it.
Well, I'm a full proponent of this, as
I love it. I think it's a
Mr.
great
Edwards
idea.
knows. I've been a proponent of the lawn conversion for a while, and I think all the benefits in addition to no noise and no emissions. I think it's a great pilot project to encourage residents as well to convert their own lawns to something that is better for stormwater and all the issues you've already raised. So I am a big proponent of this, and I think it's a great model project.
I don't think the methane
Keeps a
from,
good short-term
yeah, I
solution.
don't think the
Doesn't
methane
help
from the
with
sheep will
stormwater.
smell any worse than Mr. Finley's clarifiers, but it would be a novel idea with sheep. Plus, we would gain, like I said, organic compost and see how it works out. So just a thought, but I like the idea. It's a great idea.
Is there comments?
I want to see this move ahead.
Are we 2-1 or are we 3-0? Okay.
Adding up.
Thank you very much. That's exciting. All right, item 4C, approve a hearing date for draft ordinance, Chapter 89, sewer connections.
This is the item I mentioned earlier that was prompted by PennDOT requiring us to apply for PennDOT permits when plumbers do work in state roads.
Any questions? None here. Thank you. Item 4D, approve electronic waste recycling contract.
Hi. This is a proposal to renew our contract with Cavanta, who's our current electronic waste recycling hauler. There's no price increase from the last contract, which was this time last year, but we extended this one a little longer. There's in electronic waste recycling, there's covered devices and non-covered devices. Covered devices are more common to televisions, things like that. And by law, those are free to recycle. Actually, when you pay for a TV, part of that purchase price is a recycling fee that ultimately gets cashed in by the hauler. So those are free and are always free. It's free to residents. For non-covered devices, other types of electronics, we charge $5 flat fee to offset the cost of the 30 cents per pound. To make this cost neutral.
Any questions? Thank you. That's a 3-0. Item 4E, approve recommendation to award the bid for a high-end Minor Street intersection improvement project.
Okay. Will and I may tag team on this one. With Will being out last week, I assisted with the bid tabulation and letter of recommendation and all of that. As you see, we have two bids. The low bid is close to the engineer's estimate. Second one is way off. I will tell you that I talked to the president of Premier Contract, and I said there's a big spread between your bid and the next one. Is your price good? And he understands that he's not far off from the engineer's estimate, and he's okay with his numbers. So we did ask him. And we did get this is funded, at least in part, by a county grant, and they reviewed the bid documents and they concur. So
So just a question, the county bid, or the county document said that the estimate was
Yeah, I saw that.
936,000. So I'm confused about that.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't there for the original cost estimate, but yeah, that jumped out at me as well.
So it's not half of what the original estimate was. It's actually
Well,
100,000 less, or roughly.
well, you know what, I saw what you saw, and it suggests that originally the cost estimate was 900 and some $1,000.
Did TPD do the original estimate?
I don't know that.
I think we'll look into that and get a more detailed answer, but I think part of what has happened with this particular grant project, and it's not normal business, it's not the way we typically do things. The scope and location of this project changed at least 3 times
Hmm.
in my tenure here with the borough, and I've only been here 2.5 years. Which is, and in each time we changed the scope, the location, and what we were going to do, we got concurrence from the county to do so, and an agreement from them, and an extension of the grant award. So it's possible that you were looking at an old estimate for something that was scoped a
Hmm.
while ago, and the project changed into something else in those probably 3.5 years since the grant got awarded, because I think the grant got awarded the year before I started.
So it was a much larger scope of a project.
Could be.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not feeling really comfortable with this,
Mhm.
because the disparity of the numbers are, I think we should, as Mr. Metric said, the thing keeps, the goalpost keeps moving. Why don't we sit down, scrap both of these things, sit down and come up exactly what we want, and have there's not, if they were within $50,000 would be a different story. But the county said 900,000, he's at 800,000, the other guy's at 4. It's just way too many variables here.
I think I would recommend is if we can answer questions between now and the council meetings, if we can maybe explain, get some opinions and,
Change orders is the worst name in construction.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I
And,
guess I'd like to understand what the
right.
real estimate was. I mean, you've said that that it came in about the estimate, but I don't know where that estimate is. I haven't seen that anywhere
Okay.
other than 936,000.
Well, the estimate that we're referring to is from TPD. The 900 and some $1,000, I can't answer that.
And we just get clarification on that.
Is there a rush on this?
Well, there's one
We
thing.
have to spend the money from the county, that quickly?
Well, this is the risk, is that if we reject the bids, it's possible they'll come back in, closer to the other one. There's no guarantee, and the county grant's not going to change, I don't think. So that would be more money out of our pocket. I 100% agree with what you said about change orders. If a contractor's under stress, here come the change order requests. I get that. But another thing that I would add, and I know Mr. McCoy, you're very familiar with this, is that, our bid was protected with a bid bond, and the work will be protected by a performance bond. There's some security in that. It's not to say it would not be a bumpy road, but we do have that too.
For my money, it's too close to the estimate that
Yeah.
TPD came out with. And, there's too many variables in the numbers, and it's not like little dollars,
I understand.
it's, and we really don't have the extra money budgeted anywhere else to fill in the gap.
I respect what you're saying.
It doesn't hurt
I understand.
to take an extra 30 days and rebid the thing, because we have all the way up to Thanksgiving for PennDOT to stop us
Right.
with
Well,
cold weather.
I do think it could hurt us. Like I said, I totally respect what you're saying. Totally respect it.
I guess
But
maybe
it could hurt us because it could come in higher financials.
if TPD perhaps could explain how, I mean, they seem like there are 6 to 12 specific items that are, unit quantity things that come in twice to 4 times between the 2 bids. And I could see if it was something that there was a questionable, material or scope or whatever, but they're unit prices. So I don't understand how there can be such a discrepancy between. the
Understand.
two.
You know what? I'll defer to Mr. McCoy because he's an engineer and he has a sharper eye for that. I'm just looking at the dollars and cents in change orders.
Yep.
I hate to see the change order committed $250,000 because they forgot a manhole cover.
Understand.
So,
Well, just as one example, to the brick paver sidewalk, Premier Concrete Inc. is at 48,500 for 194 square yards. RoadCon is at 213,400. I don't understand
Right.
how there can be.
Well, one of the problems is we can't get inside their heads, This could be a contractor who really didn't want the work that bad and is maybe hoping he's going to be the only bidder. It could be that they're spot on with their estimate too, and they got the real numbers. We just don't know. But that kind
I
of
think a little
question.
more information for
Yeah.
next week would be helpful.
just like the Downingtown situation, as Mr. Metric remembers, it was underbid, overbid, underbid. We had to get a partner to do it. And then something happened and then we had to renegotiate a change order and the guy said he was going to keep the original bid. It's the bid bond only protects us if the guy walks away.
Yeah.
It doesn't protect us for change orders and there's too much of a discrepancy here and Mr. McCoy is the expert, I think, in this one.
I respect it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was just going to add that. Sorry, Billy. I actually just smashed the screen. Yeah. Wow. All right, see if I can recover from that. I was going to reference some numbers on that screen too. I was just going to say that you're correct that the scope of the project has changed. That's been driven by PennDOT coming in and spending a lot of money on there was overlap between what PennDOT was going to do and what we were going to do. We went to the county and said, is it okay if we reduce the project to just this intersection? They said, fine. Their motivation is getting the project done. So to the point about possibly rebidding it, delay could hurt us. This is the same program that we submitted the Gay Street grant to last month. It's not a problem if you have an open grant. It's a problem if they don't think the first one is moving. So it could impact us funding on other projects. The last thing I was going to say is TPD's estimate, which was revised in January, was $441,000. This came in at 453. That's as good as it gets in terms of engineering estimates.
That's a helpful piece of information. That wasn't in here. So
Yeah.
all I could see was the 930,000.
Yeah, when we open these things, it's, you're just cringing, hoping that it's close to the engineer's estimate. The only other thing I'll say is last month I mentioned that you all approved the budget for this year. That budget was $500,000 with a $400,000 grant. So there's always room for a possibility of a change order in a project like this. But if we accept the bid, we can knock this project out this year for a net cost of $53,000 and keep the grant funding agency happy with us.
We
So-
did talk about that intersection, and Mr. Metric, if he remembers, removing putting bricks back in that 400 some square feet by the corner.
Mhm.
Is that in the project or is it just going to be strictly concrete?
I'd have to check on the exact.
That was very important, because the lamp post,
Yeah,
moving it in, and then we understood that the handicap ramp there was going to be concrete with the ADA pad on it.
Mhm.
And the mayor was very much in tune to the fact that she wanted to make sure that the bricks stayed historic because you're in our business district
Yeah.
at that point and in our historic district. And Mr. Metric, during our conversation, said it was we could probably take up what's there and then have somebody else relay it.
Yeah.
But it would be horrible to see concrete, all the way up the middle of the next building.
yeah. The only concrete would be in the vicinity of ramps because
Yeah.
if brick isn't possible.
Yeah, the ramps are fine. It's
Yeah.
just the sidewalk itself.
Yeah.
So it's not that particular item that I said was, 41,000 versus 228. There was no add alternate For brick, this was just the base concrete or just the base
Brick.
bid?
Yeah.
For brick. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think the other thing we should probably, to your point, Mr. Edwards, have TPD commit, and look at the numbers of RoadCon, look at the numbers that the
Mhm.
other guy gave, and, maybe
Their own.
they'll come to a consensus that it's really $600,000 for the job instead of 800,000
Yeah, for sure.
for materials and stuff. like
Yeah.
that.
I just hate to rebid this and have them rebid it at, you know.
Agreed. Let's hope for the best at this.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. This is we'll table it to the work session discussion with more information. I have one question. Sorry to go back to item, the long conversion at B, because you talked about the term, the 25 years. One question I have is long-term expansion of either of these plants, does that prevent us from doing anything, expansions at those plants?
That's a great question and something we asked on site. And the answers we got from Sean and Mike were the places we've chosen. At Taylor Run, one of them's outside of the fenced-in area. And in both other locations at both plants are upslope of where everything is coming in. So it'd be really impractical to, just in a wastewater plant, to build things upslope of
Sure.
of
Okay,
other-
thank
of
you.
other infrastructure.
Thanks. Okay.
And I think too, if that's the case, the needs of wastewater treatment trump the need, we can plant a meadow somewhere else, but if there's only one place left to put a critical piece of water treatment infrastructure, we'll pivot at that point.
Sure.
If I could add one other part, which is we're currently under capacity at the plant, and with Westchester Borough being mostly built out, there's no guarantee for the future, but when we talked about it, I felt pretty good that there wouldn't be a need to expand to that area.
Mr. McCoy,
Thank you.
can I interrupt for a second? To go back to the High Street and Minor Street intersection, since we have a new traffic planner, would it be advantageous for them to do it as well? So it'd be a unbiased eye looking at it. It won't cost us anything, I guess, or a little bit more. It's better than $250,000. Sean, I don't spend money. Mr. Jingles doesn't spend money, but I'm worried about.
I'm right
that
there
bid
with you,
being
Mr.
so low.
Jingles.
Yeah, I'm worried about the bid being so low and a change order coming in, and then we're stuck in the middle of the street. So,
I have no problem.
I'm just going to say, I'm comfortable with moving forward with this bid. I know change orders are not comfortable, but if that is the worst, I'm okay with moving forward with it.
that's okay. They're going to do a review. So and if we happen to sell the wastewater treatment plants, does the person that takes it on have to keep the 25-year lawn fee, or keep it? What if we sold to Aqua? Would they have to keep the meadows going? Is it an agreement, a transferable agreement?
Good question. I don't know the answer to it, and Kristen is looking at it, and I'll make sure she answers that question for us.
And Mr. Finley will be getting some gifts real soon because of the Market Street flats or lofts or whatever they're going to be called within the next year or so. So hopefully he's ready for it.
All right, we'll move on to item 4F, approve the April 2023 minutes. Any comments or changes?
Approved.
Thank you. That's 3-0. And number 5, any other business?
I have one thing I want to say, request. Is there any possibility that we can move the parking meeting before this meeting?
Yeah, it's up to council when you want to meet. You want to meet Saturday at 11 a.m. It's up to you.
I know it's hard for Lisa to come early, but I think that this meeting consistently runs over and parking rarely takes longer than half an hour.
I would support that 110% since I am participating remotely tonight.
Okay, we could, since it's a meeting of council, the action that would need to take place would be at full council. So it would be a meeting schedule amendment. And we could put it on discussion for Monday night.
If you can write it, then I will be happy to do whatever. Thank you.
I will need a cup of coffee from both of you in order to make this later.
7:30 tomorrow morning. Starbucks.
Okay, any other business? Seeing none, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:11. Thank you.
Sure.